This video will make your mind 200% sharper. Machiavelli. There is something profoundly dangerous about a sharp mind. Because when your mind becomes sharper than the world around you, you stop being controlled by it. You start seeing through illusions. The smiles that hide envy. The compliments that conceal manipulation. The rules designed to keep you obedient. Most people don't really think. They just react. They confuse memory for wisdom and emotion for truth. But once your mind awakens, once you start seeing with the eyes of clarity, you can't go back to sleep. This is why Machiavelli's philosophy was never meant for the faint-hearted. It wasn't created to please, but to awaken. In a world where ignorance feels comfortable, intelligence becomes rebellion. Machiavelli never wrote for the masses. He wrote for those who wanted to rise above them. His words were never about cruelty, as people claim. They were about clarity. He believed that the greatest power is not in physical dominance, nor in wealth, but in mental precision. The ability to see what others refuse to see, and to think in ways others fear to explore. In this video, you'll learn not how to become ruthless, but how to become awake. To make your mind 200% sharper means learning to cut through noise, to separate truth from illusion, and wisdom from emotional confusion. You see, the modern mind is cluttered. We live surrounded by information, yet deprived of understanding. Our attention is pulled in 1,000 directions. Our instincts are sedated by comfort, and our intelligence is buried under layers of emotional noise. A sharp mind, in the Machiavellian sense, is not one that memorizes. It's one that sees patterns. It detects the subtle connections that others overlook, the invisible logic behind chaos. This is what Machiavelli mastered. Not deception for its own sake, but perception as a weapon. He understood that whoever sees reality clearly holds the ultimate power. The power to act strategically instead of emotionally. So, as you listen to this, don't expect comfort. Expect truth. Raw, unfiltered, and necessary. Expect to confront the lazy habits that make your thinking dull. Expect to face the uncomfortable truth that most of your thoughts are not even yours. They were implanted by the culture, by fear, by repetition. But here, together, we'll dismantle that mental fog. We'll rediscover the art of thinking sharply, strategically, and freely. If you've ever felt misunderstood, if you've ever felt that your intelligence isolates you, or that your depth makes others uncomfortable, this video is for you. Because maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to see through. Before we begin, I want you to write in the comments this simple declaration. I choose clarity over comfort. Say it, because clarity will challenge you. Comfort will seduce you. But only clarity will set you free. Stay with me until the end, because by the final words of this video, I'll share with you the one Machiavellian secret that can double your mental sharpness. Not by adding more knowledge, but by removing what dulls it. It's not a trick. It's not a tactic. It's a revelation. A quiet awakening that will forever change the way you think, act, and see the world around you. To understand what it means to sharpen your mind the Machiavellian way, you must first understand the world that forged his philosophy. Niccolo Machiavelli lived in Florence during the Renaissance, a time of brilliance and betrayal, of art and blood. Behind the golden paintings and poetic ideals, there was a ruthless political chess game where survival depended on perception. Kings were poisoned by their advisors, popes were manipulated by merchants, and alliances changed faster than the weather. In such a world, only those who saw through appearances could thrive. Machiavelli observed this chaos and realized something terrifying. Most people don't act based on reason. They act based on fear, vanity, and desire. That realization was the birth of his genius. While others dreamed of moral ideals, he studied the nature of human beings, not as they should be, but as they are. This was his heresy, his rebellion against philosophical naivete, and this rebellion is what made his mind sharper than all his contemporaries. To Machiavelli, a sharp mind is not a collection of facts. It is a mirror polished by observation, stripped of illusions. His philosophy wasn't about cynicism, but about clarity, seeing humanity without makeup. Today, the same blindness still rules our lives, but in more subtle ways. Our illusions no longer wear crowns or robes. They wear screens, trends, and opinions. We are told what to think, what to feel, what to desire. The dullness of the modern mind comes not from lack of information, but from lack of discipline. The human brain has become overstimulated yet underdeveloped, capable of processing infinite data, but unable to distinguish wisdom from noise. This is why Machiavelli's wisdom feels more relevant now than ever, because his ideas were not bound to politics. They were psychological weapons, tools to cut through manipulation, both external and internal. In nature, sharpness is survival. The eagle's sight, the tiger's focus, the serpent's patience, all are forms of intelligence honed by necessity. The mind is no different. If it is not challenged, it decays. If it is not confronted by truth, it becomes dull. Machiavelli's principle was rooted in the same law that governs nature. Clarity is earned through confrontation. You don't sharpen a blade by polishing it gently. You strike it against stone. The same is true for the mind. But there's something deeper. Machiavelli knew that power itself is neutral. It becomes dark or divine depending on the one who wields it. To sharpen your mind, therefore, is to take responsibility for your perception, to stop being a victim of emotion or manipulation. He understood that to think clearly is to free oneself from invisible control. And that is precisely why society fears clarity, because clear thinkers are uncontrollable. We are entering a world where emotional manipulation has replaced chains, and distraction has replaced slavery. To escape it, you must learn what Machiavelli knew, that a sharp mind cuts not only through deception, it cuts through dependency. It separates you from the crowd. It isolates you, yes, but in that isolation, you find power. Are you ready to see through the fog of illusion the way Machiavelli did? Then let us go deeper into the inner architecture of the sharp mind itself. The path to a sharper mind doesn't begin with learning more. It begins with unlearning. Most of what you call thinking is not thinking at all. It's reaction. It's memory disguised as reasoning, emotion disguised as truth, conditioning disguised as conviction. Machiavelli understood that to sharpen the mind, one must first strip away the layers of inherited confusion. He saw that the mind is not naturally weak. It has been dulled by years of obedience, by fear of judgment, by the comfort of collective thinking. To awaken intelligence, he believed, is to stop being a slave to appearance and start seeing what is. The first principle of the Machiavellian mind is mental detachment. You cannot see reality clearly if you are emotionally entangled with it. When something offends you, your vision blurs. When you crave approval, your reasoning collapses. Detachment doesn't mean coldness. It means clarity. The man who can look at his own pain without reacting impulsively gains a kind of power most will never know. Because once you can observe your emotions without being possessed by them, you stop being predictable. And unpredictability is power. Machiavelli taught that those who cannot control their emotional reactions are puppets waiting to be moved. Every time you explode in anger or drown in fear, someone else gains control over your string. To sharpen your mind, you must first learn to sit with your own storms and see them as data, not destiny. The second principle is strategic awareness. Machiavelli's brilliance came from his capacity to see several moves ahead, not only in politics, but in human behavior. He studied how motives hide beneath words, how people reveal themselves through inconsistencies. You can do the same in your daily life. Observe the tone, not the words. Watch the patterns, not the promises. When someone tries to persuade you, ask yourself what they stand to gain. This kind of awareness is exhausting for the naive, but empowering for the awakened. A sharp mind does not assume. It deduces. It does not rush. It calculates. This doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you precise. The third principle is the economy of attention. The dull mind is scattered. It jumps from distraction to distraction, never going deep enough to discover truth. The sharp mind, however, is economical. It treats attention like currency. It spends it only where it multiplies. Machiavelli would have despised our modern addiction to noise, the endless scrolling, the constant dopamine drip that keeps people docile. He would say, if they can control what you pay attention to, they can control your entire perception of reality. To sharpen your mind is to reclaim your focus, protect it like a kingdom under siege. Every notification, every meaningless argument, every superficial entertainment. These are thieves robbing your clarity. The fourth principle is intellectual aggression. Most people read to confirm what they already believe. The sharp mind reads to destroy what it once believed. Machiavelli had the courage to think against himself. He was not afraid to question his own conclusions. That is the mark of a superior intellect. The willingness to challenge your own logic. When you expose your beliefs to fire, only truth survives. Every idea, every moral, every common sense should be tested through experience, not inherited blindly. The more your mind embraces friction, the sharper it becomes. Just as a sword is refined by heat and impact, the mind grows luminous through confrontation. Avoiding discomfort keeps your intelligence weak. The fifth principle is mental invisibility. Never reveal the full depth of your understanding. The dull mind brags. The sharp mind conceals. Machiavelli knew that visibility invites attack. To survive in a manipulative world, you must master the art of appearing ordinary while thinking extraordinarily. Keep your insights private. Let others underestimate you. It grants you strategic advantage. As he wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does at last." Learn to move silently while observing loudly. You don't have to prove your intelligence. Your results will. Pause here and ask yourself, which of these 5 principles do you violate most often? Do you let emotions blur your perception? Do you waste your focus on noise? Do you expose too much of your mind to people who haven't earned your trust? Reflect honestly. Because awareness is the first act of sharpening. Comment below, "I choose awareness over illusion." This declaration will remind you that clarity begins with responsibility. Now, let's go deeper, beyond the surface of intellect and into the architecture of power itself. The invisible patterns that make some minds dominant and others submissive. The sixth principle is pattern recognition. Every event, emotion, and relationship follows hidden structures. The majority live at the surface, reacting to individual events without perceiving the sequence beneath them. Machiavelli, however, trained his perception like a hunter. He watched not what people said, but how they repeated. The way someone treats you once means little. The way they repeat it reveals everything. The sharp mind collects patterns. It doesn't rely on luck or instinct alone. This allows you to predict behavior, to see future outcomes forming long before they manifest. When you master this, you are no longer surprised by betrayal. You anticipate it. You no longer drown in emotion. You use it as a signal. The seventh principle is intellectual solitude. Machiavelli wrote most of his wisdom while exiled, alone, stripped of political influence. Solitude purified his thinking. He realized that when the noise of the world fades, the truth becomes deafening. The dull mind fears silence because silence exposes its emptiness. But the sharp mind seeks silence because it sharpens intuition. Every day withdraw. Even for a few minutes, observe your thoughts without distraction. In that quiet observation, the mind begins to self-correct. You'll start noticing which ideas are yours and which were implanted. Solitude is not loneliness, it is refinement. The eighth principle is the study of contradiction. To think sharply is to hold opposites in balance without collapsing into confusion. Machiavelli understood that human nature is paradoxical, that people can be both kind and cruel, loyal and self-serving. The weak mind seeks certainty. The sharp mind seeks understanding. When you learn to hold tension without rushing to moralize, your awareness becomes multidimensional. For example, power can corrupt, but powerlessness corrupts too. Compassion can heal, but excessive compassion can enslave. Every truth has a shadow. To sharpen your mind is to learn the geometry of contradiction. To see the full spectrum, not just the comfortable half. The ninth principle is calculated empathy. Machiavelli never dismissed emotion. He simply refused to drown in it. To influence others, you must understand their fears, desires, and hopes. This is not manipulation. It is navigation. Empathy without calculation makes you vulnerable. Calculation without empathy makes you inhuman. The sharp mind merges both. It knows when to show compassion and when to withhold it. It knows that sometimes silence communicates more powerfully than words. When you learn to feel without losing strategy, you become formidable. The 10th principle is psychological economy. Most people waste their mental energy on things that don't matter. They replay old conversations, imagine judgments that never happened, and exhaust themselves fighting invisible enemies. A sharp mind preserves energy the way a master swordsman preserves his strikes. Deliberate, minimal, lethal. Machiavelli understood that every unnecessary thought is a leak in your internal empire. You can't dominate your reality if you cannot dominate your own attention. So begin to observe where your energy flows. Do you feed anxiety with repetition? Do you nurture anger with imagination? Each of these drains your clarity. The mind is a battlefield, and your attention is the most valuable soldier on it. A sharp thinker learns when to fight and when to retreat, not out of fear, but precision. Energy spent wisely becomes intelligence. Energy scattered becomes confusion. The 11th principle is the art of emotional disguise. Machiavelli taught that those who display their emotions too openly give their enemies a map of their weaknesses. He saw how rulers who revealed love, fear, or anger too easily were quickly manipulated. In daily life, this remains true. If people can predict your emotional reactions, they can control you. The sharp mind learns to smile when it burns inside, to remain calm when chaos erupts. This is not hypocrisy, it is sovereignty. The power to govern yourself before governing others. When you hide your emotions strategically, you create psychological space, a buffer that protects your reasoning from impulsive destruction. Remember, when the world expects you to react, do the opposite. That's when you reclaim control. The 12th principle is intellectual hunger. Machiavelli fed his intellect with observation, not admiration. He didn't worship knowledge, he used it as a weapon. A dull mind reads for entertainment. A sharp mind reads for transformation. You must feed your mind with contradictions, ancient texts, and perspectives that challenge your worldview. Avoid intellectual fast food, the shallow viral noise that fills you but never nourishes you. Read things that offend you. Study ideas that destabilize your comfort. Because truth rarely flatters the ego, it shatters it. The more you allow your beliefs to be broken, the more space you create for authentic understanding to grow. The 13th principle is controlled arrogance. Yes, arrogance, but controlled, not blind. Machiavelli knew that excessive humility becomes a disguise for weakness. To think sharply, you must dare to believe in the magnitude of your potential. You must carry a quiet pride, not loud boasting, a silent certainty in your vision. Controlled arrogance keeps you from shrinking under the weight of others' opinions. It reminds you that self-respect is not vanity, it is armor. The mind that constantly doubts itself can never think clearly. It is too busy apologizing. Know your worth, but remain adaptable. Confidence sharpens thought, while arrogance without awareness dulls it. The 14th principle is the discipline of mental contrast. The mind grows sharper when it holds opposing ideas side by side and searches for synthesis. Machiavelli admired contradiction because it breeds insight. Ask yourself daily, what would my enemy think? What would my opposite choose? What would a wiser version of me decide? The brain strengthens through contrast. Just as muscles grow through resistance, every time you challenge your point of view, you carve a sharper edge into your understanding. Avoid the echo chambers of agreement. Debate yourself. Become your own rival. The 15th principle is the cold eye, the ability to observe without moral panic. Most minds lose sharpness because they rush to judge. We see something unpleasant and instantly label it evil, or good, right, or wrong. But Machiavelli knew that judgment blinds perception. To see reality clearly, you must momentarily suspend morality. Observe the world as it is, before deciding how it should be. This doesn't make you immoral. It makes you objective. Only when you understand the anatomy of darkness can you illuminate it. When you react emotionally to everything, your insight dies. Learn to look at corruption, betrayal, or greed not with disgust, but with curiosity. The sharp mind asks why, not how dare they. The 16th principle is mental adaptability. Rigidity kills intelligence. Machiavelli believed that those who survive the longest are those who can transform their thinking when reality changes. Many people cling to outdated beliefs because they mistake consistency for strength. But a sharp mind evolves with truth. When the world changes, adapt. When you are wrong, pivot. When your strategy fails, rebuild. Flexibility is not weakness. It is resilience. The sharp mind does not shatter under pressure. It bends and reforms. The faster you can learn, unlearn and relearn, the more undefeatable you become. The 17th principle is the art of silence. The dull mind speaks to fill emptiness. The sharp mind speaks to create impact. Machiavelli mastered the strategic pause, the ability to let silence work in his favor. In silence, you observe what others reveal unintentionally. In silence, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability breeds respect. When you stop explaining yourself, people start analyzing you. When you stop reacting, others reveal their motives. Cultivate this art. Speak less. Observe more. Your silence becomes a mirror that forces others to confront their own noise. The 18th principle is emotional inversion. Instead of fighting pain, use it. Machiavelli saw suffering as a forge for power. When you face humiliation, rejection, or failure, convert that energy into fuel for clarity. Pain focuses the mind like a blade against stone. Every wound is a lesson in disguise. Every disappointment a test of perception. The difference between a weak and sharp mind lies not in avoiding pain, but in transforming it into understanding. Learn to extract insight from suffering instead of resentment. This is alchemy of the spirit. The art of turning poison into perception. The 19th principle is the balance between detachment and empathy. A mind too cold becomes disconnected. A mind too warm becomes blind. Machiavelli's genius was to walk that razor's edge, to feel deeply yet act strategically. You must learn to care without losing control. When you love, love consciously. When you forgive, forgive intelligently. This balance keeps your perception rooted in reality rather than fantasy. The sharp mind never allows emotion to erase logic, but it also never lets logic erase humanity. The 20th principle is strategic patience. Every dull mind rushes. It wants results now, revenge now, recognition now. Machiavelli understood that the greatest victories are invisible until the final move. Patience is not inaction. It is preparation. The sharp mind works silently, observes time, and acts when others are unguarded. This is not cowardice. It's art. The mind that can wait without losing focus is unstoppable. For when the impatient act, they reveal themselves. When you act, It should be with the precision of inevitability. Now pause again and ask yourself, which of these 20 truths do you feel awakening inside you right now? The one that stings you most is likely the one your soul resists, and therefore the one you must master first. Write it in the comments. I choose to train my mind. Because the Machiavellian path is not about domination, it's about mastery, and mastery begins within. You are not here to be liked, you are here to be clear. Clarity is the ultimate form of power, and once you taste it, you'll never settle for confusion again. Clarity is not given. It is earned through pain, solitude, and ruthless honesty. By now, you've realized that a sharp mind isn't born. It's built, layer by layer, like a blade forged through fire. But Machiavelli's deeper truth goes beyond principles. It lies in how you see. Because most people don't see the world as it is. They see it as they are. Their perception is distorted by desires, guilt, memories, and self-importance. The sharp mind breaks this mirror. It stops projecting and begins perceiving. To sharpen your perception is to remove every filter that flatters the ego. It's not easy. It feels like losing yourself. But that's the point. Clarity requires death. The death of illusions. The 21st principle of the sharp mind is ego demolition. The ego loves to think it already knows. It thrives on validation, applause, and being right. Machiavelli would warn you that as long as you defend your ego, you cannot grow. Every time you cling to an opinion just because it's yours, you dull your edge. Every time you seek to prove rather than to understand, you close your mind. The sharp mind learns to kill its ego before the world does. That means admitting ignorance when you're wrong, learning from those beneath you, and walking away from arguments that feed vanity but starve wisdom. Humility is the sharpening stone of genius. The 22nd principle is cold logic under fire. When chaos erupts, most minds melt. Emotion takes control, and reasoning disappears. Machiavelli's mind, however, grew sharper in crisis. He believed that the truest test of intelligence is calmness under pressure. When everyone panics, breathe slower. When others rush to act, observe. When fear spreads, study patterns. The calm mind does not deny emotion. It commands it. By mastering this, you become the eye in the storm. Still, focused, untouchable. And that composure, that cold clarity, becomes magnetic. People will follow it, even if they don't understand it. The 23rd principle is mental transmutation. This is the secret art of transforming one form of energy into another. Anger into focus, sadness into understanding, jealousy into motivation. The weak react, the sharp mind redirects. Machiavelli saw emotion as raw material. He didn't suppress it, he shaped it. When you feel rage, don't explode. Dissect it. Ask what truth it reveals. When you feel envy, don't drown in comparison. Study what it teaches you about your own desire. Each emotion, when analyzed, becomes a message from your deeper intelligence. The sharp mind listens. The 24th principle is disidentification. The ability to step outside your thoughts and observe them as a witness. The average person says, "I am angry." The sharp mind says, "There is anger." This small shift changes everything. Machiavelli understood that mastery begins when you realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. Once you develop this awareness, manipulation loses its power over you. You stop being reactive because you no longer confuse mental noise with identity. The mind becomes a tool again, not a master. The 25th principle is strategic ignorance. Yes, ignorance, but intentional. Machiavelli taught that not every truth deserves attention, and not every battle deserves engagement. The sharp mind chooses what to ignore. Constant awareness of every trivial detail leads to paralysis. Selective blindness is a strength. Learn to ignore gossip, provocation, and irrelevant information. The dull mind tries to know everything. The sharp mind knows what not to know. Every bit of energy spent on noise is energy stolen from creation. By practicing strategic ignorance, you become focused, serene, and unstoppable. The 26th principle is the weaponization of calm. Calmness terrifies manipulators. When you remain calm in conflict, your opponent's strategy collapses. Machiavelli would often describe composure as a psychological weapon. In a world addicted to outrage, calmness becomes a form of dominance. When everyone else reacts, your stillness becomes authority. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you control when and how you respond. Calmness is not passivity, it's precision. A sharp mind is a still lake. Beneath its surface lies the depth of an ocean. The 27th principle is mental compression. Machiavelli's intellect was razor sharp because it simplified the complex without losing essence. The modern mind is bloated, full of information but lacking synthesis. To think sharply is to condense, not to complicate. Take chaos and reduce it to its core mechanism. When you can summarize a situation in one sentence of truth, you understand it. This ability to compress complexity into clarity is rare. It's what makes philosophers timeless and strategists immortal. The sharper your mind, the fewer words you need. The 28th principle is cognitive contrast, the deliberate use of opposites to trigger new insight. Machiavelli often studied opposing forces, mercy and cruelty, love and fear, chaos and order. He saw that truth exists not in extremes but in tension. When you analyze opposites together, the brain sparks. The contrast awakens dormant parts of your mind. For example, imagine power through humility, dominance through silence, control through surrender. These paradoxes sharpen thought because they break linear thinking. Every paradox is a gate to higher understanding. The 29th principle is the mastery of time. Machiavelli observed that most people are either trapped in the past or enslaved by the future. Both dull the mind. The sharp mind operates in the eternal present. It learns from the past and prepares for the future. But it acts now. You must learn to measure time not by hours, but by moments of awareness. 1 minute of pure focus can outweigh a whole day of distraction. Time bends for those who are present. That's the essence of mental sharpness. To be here, fully awake, while the world sleeps. The 30th principle is the silent code of intention. Machiavelli wrote that words are wind, but intention shapes destiny. The sharp mind acts with deliberate intent, even in small things. When you walk, speak, or decide, do it consciously. Every thought you repeat becomes architecture in your mind. Intention is what programs your subconscious. That's why aimless people feel lost. Their mind has no direction. To sharpen your mind, align your thoughts with intention. Ask before each action, does this strengthen me or weaken me? The answer will cut through illusion like light through fog. Now pause. Among these 10 new principles, which feels like a mirror reflecting your weakness? Write it down. Awareness is the beginning of transformation. Comment this phrase, I choose to master my perception. It's a promise to yourself that from this moment on, you will no longer think like the average emotional, distracted mind. You will think like a strategist. Let's continue deeper into the final layer of Machiavellian intelligence, the hidden paradoxes, the forbidden wisdom that few dare to see because it exposes how fragile most human thinking really is. The 31st principle is the power of invisible influence. The sharpest minds don't argue. They design perception. Machiavelli understood that people believe not what is true, but what they can emotionally digest. The superior mind plants ideas subtly, letting others believe they arrived there on their own. This is persuasion at its highest level. Not through words, but through silence, energy, and timing. To sharpen your mind is to see how influence flows beneath conversation. In tone, gesture, rhythm. Learn to influence indirectly, and you'll never need to dominate directly. The 32nd principle is lucid detachment. When the world collapses, The sharp mind observes as if from above. It sees chaos as choreography, tragedy as transformation. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means altitude. When you rise high enough in perception, every event, even pain, reveals purpose. Machiavelli lived through exile, betrayal, and loss. Yet his mind only grew sharper. Why? Because he detached from outcome. He saw patterns beyond pain. That's the ultimate clarity. The ability to witness life's storms without drowning in them. The 33rd principle is intellectual stoicism with soul. Machiavelli was not a cold machine. He was passionate, but disciplined. The sharp mind must learn this paradox: to feel everything deeply, yet remain unmoved. This fusion of passion and control produces mental elegance, the ability to act from wisdom, not from wounds. Imagine being able to face any insult, temptation, or chaos and still respond from inner command. That's not suppression. That's liberation. The 34th principle is awareness of manipulation. The dull mind is easily led because it wants comfort. The sharp mind recognizes manipulation the moment it appears. In advertising, politics, relationships, even spirituality, Machiavelli's writings were demonized because they expose the very strategies power used to control people. The truth is uncomfortable. Most systems rely on emotional exploitation. When you awaken, you begin to see the invisible strings. And once you see them, you cannot be used. Freedom begins with awareness of manipulation, both outside and within. The 35th principle is mental minimalism. The mind sharpens when it carries less. Every unnecessary worry, every obsession with reputation, every resentment, they clutter your internal space. Simplicity clears vision. The more you declutter your mind, the more precise your thoughts become. Think of your consciousness as a room. Throw out what no longer serves you. Every fear, every comparison, every what if. Gone. A clear mind is a sharp mind. The 36th principle is the paradox of control. Machiavelli realized that to control anything, you must first stop needing control. The desperate mind tightens its grip and loses everything. The sharp mind stays fluid and gains influence through adaptability. When you stop forcing outcomes, you begin shaping them indirectly. Detach from results, focus on process. The less you chase power, the more naturally it flows toward you. The 37th principle is reflective aggression. Most avoid aggression, but Machiavelli knew that suppressed fire turns to weakness. The sharp mind uses aggression consciously, not to destroy others, but to break stagnation. Aggression becomes creativity when it's guided by awareness. That's why ambition, when purified by clarity, becomes divine. It's not about violence. It's about vitality. A passive mind dulls, an active mind sharpens. The 38th principle is the art of self-observation in real time. The sharp mind doesn't wait to reflect later. It observes itself as it acts. When you speak, you watch the tone. When you decide, you watch the impulse. When you feel, you watch the reaction forming. This real-time awareness turns life itself into meditation. The sharper your self-observation, the fewer mistakes you make. It's like seeing your thoughts as they arise and choosing which ones to feed. That is mastery. The 39th principle is existential humor. Yes, humor. Machiavelli understood the absurdity of human behavior. To think sharply, you must sometimes laugh at the world and at yourself. Humor breaks rigidity. It keeps your mind flexible and your ego small. When you can smile at your own foolishness, you transcend it. The dull mind takes everything personally. The sharp mind sees the cosmic joke. Laughter, when rooted in awareness, becomes wisdom. And finally, the 40th principle, lucid purpose. The ultimate sharpness of mind is not found in analysis, but in direction. Without purpose, intelligence turns inward and eats itself. Machiavelli believed that the mind must serve something greater than comfort, an ideal, a creation, a vision. Purpose channels thought like a blade guided by intention. Without it, brilliance becomes chaos. The sharpest mind is not the one that knows most, but the one that serves best. Pause one last time and reflect. Of these 40 principles, which one feels like it was written for you? Write it below. Declare it. Because the act of naming your lesson begins its embodiment. Comment this phrase, "I choose to awaken my clarity." Now, we will move into the next chapter. Not theory, but transformation. How to apply all of this power practically in your daily reality. To think faster, see deeper, and act with silent precision. Everything you've heard so far means nothing unless you apply it. A sharp mind is not a theory, it's a discipline, a living architecture you build inside yourself. Machiavelli would never have respected mere thinkers. He valued doers, those who transform perception into strategy and knowledge into movement. So, now, let's translate his hidden principles into daily practices, not as empty rituals, but as exercises to forge the mind into something radiant, focused, and untouchable. The sharpening of the mind begins in small, consistent acts. First, you must reclaim your morning. The first hour after waking determines the sharpness of your perception for the entire day. Before the noise of the world enters your mind, you must establish command. Don't reach for your phone. Don't check messages. Sit in silence. Observe your thoughts. Breathe slowly. Ask yourself one question. What deserves my attention today? This single act begins the process of mental sovereignty. Because clarity begins the moment you stop letting others decide what fills your consciousness. Machiavelli would say that your mind is a state, and you are its ruler. A distracted ruler loses his kingdom. The second exercise is observation training. Every day for 15 minutes, watch the world as if you were an invisible observer. Don't interpret, don't judge, just observe. Watch how people move, how they speak, how emotions shift in a room. Notice details others ignore. A subtle tone, a micro-expression, a change of posture. This trains your brain to detect patterns automatically. The more you observe without reacting, the more powerful your perception becomes. You will start to see motives instead of just words. You'll begin predicting outcomes before they unfold. This is the foundation of the Machiavellian sharpness. Perception beyond appearance. Third, limit stimulation. You cannot sharpen a blade while throwing it into chaos. Your mind is the same. Reduce constant noise. Social media, gossip, trivial debates. Choose stillness over stimulation. Choose deep reading over endless scrolling. Machiavelli spent his evenings reading the ancients, not because he was romantic, but because old knowledge purifies the intellect. Read something timeless every day, not the news. The classics. They train the mind to think structurally. They connect you with mental ancestors who thought without distraction. Fourth, record your reasoning. Keep what Machiavelli called the Book of Reflection. Every evening, write down your 3 strongest observations of the day, not emotions, insights. Ask yourself, what did I misjudge? What did I overreact to? What truth did I uncover today? This habit turns experience into data. Over time, you'll notice patterns in your own behavior, where you lose focus, where you fall into emotion. Self-observation is how intelligence evolves. Fifth, practice emotional neutrality. You will face insults, disappointments, and fear. The dull mind collapses under these. The sharp mind uses them as sparring partners. When something triggers you, do not respond immediately. Pause. Feel the emotion fully without acting. Observe where it lives in your body, your chest, your throat, your stomach. Breathe through it until the heat cools. Then analyze. What does this reaction reveal about me? This detachment trains your nervous system to obey reason instead of panic. The sharper the mind, the calmer the body. Sixth, train selective speech. Each day, say 10% less than you normally would. Use silence strategically. Speak only when your words are necessary, clear, and purposeful. This practice rewires your brain to think before expressing. Machiavelli wrote that silence builds presence. It creates an aura of command. The more you control your words, the more people feel your weight when you do speak. A sharp mind doesn't talk to be heard. It talks to influence. 7th, embrace solitude. At least once a week, disconnect completely. No music, no devices, no conversation. Go somewhere natural or quiet and face your thoughts. In the beginning, it will be uncomfortable because silence confronts you with the noise you've been avoiding. But stay there. Observe the chaos inside your mind without running away. After the storm settles, you'll find a clear, cold silence. Your true awareness. Solitude, Machiavelli believed, is the gymnasium of the mind. It strengthens the intellect through confrontation with itself. 8th, develop pattern notebooks. Each time someone surprises you, positively or negatively, write down what you missed. What signals did you ignore? What tone, gesture, or pattern could have revealed this outcome earlier? This develops predictive intelligence. Over time, you'll learn to see betrayal before it happens, opportunity before it appears, and lies before they're spoken. The dull mind hopes. The sharp mind calculates. 9th, train yourself to think in opposites. When you face a decision, ask yourself, what would I do if I were my enemy? Or, what would happen if I did the exact opposite? This paradoxical thinking stretches the brain and prevents cognitive rigidity. It opens the mind to new strategies, new perspectives, new paths. Machiavelli often wrote 2 opposing solutions for each political problem, studying the benefits and dangers of both. He didn't seek right answers. He sought understanding. 10th, practice delayed reaction. When confronted, provoked, or emotionally stirred, wait. Even 3 seconds of silence rewires your behavior. The moment you resist the urge to react, you reassert power over yourself. This is Machiavellian meditation, mastery through pause. Because sharpness isn't measured by speed, but by precision. The sword that cuts deepest is the one that waits for the perfect angle. 11th, mental fasting. Once a week, spend a full day consuming no information. No news, no videos, no reading. Let your mind digest. Modern minds are obese with data but starving for meaning. When you fast intellectually, your natural intelligence awakens. New ideas rise from silence like sparks from ashes. This is how Machiavelli wrote The Prince. In exile, surrounded by nothing but his thoughts and the ghosts of history. 12th, use emotional inversion. When pain arises, study it. Ask, what is this teaching me? If someone rejects you, learn about human nature. If you fail, study your pattern. Don't waste pain. Refine it. The sharp mind recycles suffering into wisdom. Every challenge becomes sharpening stone. 13th, master your environment. Your surroundings influence your thinking more than you realize. Order your space as if it were a temple of clarity. Keep what inspires thought. Remove what invites distraction. The energy of your space becomes the energy of your mind. Machiavelli's desk faced a window overlooking Florence. He wrote while gazing at the city he could no longer control. Yet his mind ruled it in silence. Create a space that reminds you daily that you are your own ruler. 14th, practice memory reversal. At night, replay your entire day backwards in your mind, like a film in reverse. Start from the last moment before sleep and move toward morning. This trains mental organization and clarity. You'll notice small decisions that shaped your day's flow. You'll learn how one careless emotion led to wasted hours. Memory reversal sharpens pattern awareness. It transforms life into a teacher that never stops instructing. 15th, limit emotional vocabulary. Every time you label an experience too quickly, I'm angry, I'm tired, I'm bored, you imprison yourself in that state. Instead, describe emotions with neutrality. There is tension. There is resistance. This small linguistic shift rewires perception. It separates identity from reaction. Machiavelli knew that language shapes thought. To sharpen your words is to sharpen your world. 16th, train contradiction tolerance. Once a day, read or listen to something that opposes your beliefs. Don't argue with it. Absorb it. Notice how your body reacts. That discomfort is the edge of growth. The dull mind seeks agreement. The sharp mind seeks tension. Every paradox you face without resistance carves a new pathway in your brain. 17th, observe manipulation without anger. The next time someone tries to guilt trip, flatter, or provoke you, study it like a scientist. What emotional buttons are they pressing? What do they hope to gain? When you analyze manipulation instead of reacting to it, you disarm it. Machiavelli said the wise man studies vice, not to practice it, but to be immune to it. 18th, reduce your verbal output. Practice communicating through presence, through gaze, through timing. The more control you have over silence, the more powerful your words become. This rewires how your mind perceives power, not as noise, but as stillness. 19th, practice deep focus immersion. Choose one subject, philosophy, psychology, art, and study it without interruption for an hour. No multitasking, no distraction. The brain learns sharpness through depth, not variety. The more you go deep, the more patterns you begin to see across all subjects. 20th, build your invisible archive. Every sharp thinker keeps mental notes of human nature. Lessons from betrayal, friendship, failure, and success. Revisit them often. This personal library becomes your private counsel, your internal Machiavelli whispering truth when emotion clouds reason. Now, to maintain this discipline, you must understand that the sharpening process never ends. The blade must be used, cleaned, and sharpened again. You will dull your mind many times, through fatigue, distraction, desire. But awareness always restores it. When you notice yourself slipping into emotional noise, pause and return to silence. That pause is the grindstone. The most dangerous obstacle will be comfort. Comfort is the quiet assassin of clarity. It seduces you to soften your edges, to seek validation instead of truth. You must reject that softness, not in cruelty, but in vigilance. The mind, like metal, stays sharp only through resistance. Seek challenge, seek solitude, seek the tension between what you know and what you fear to learn. That tension is where your mind awakens. As you practice these 20 disciplines, you'll start noticing something strange. People will begin to sense something different in you. A calm authority, a presence that doesn't flinch. You'll speak less, but your words will carry weight. You'll see through lies instantly. You'll predict outcomes without trying. This isn't mysticism, it's pattern mastery. Machiavelli understood that the sharp mind creates its own destiny by perceiving the invisible architecture of cause and effect. But beware. A sharp mind isolates. The clearer you see, the fewer people will understand you. Many will mistake your calmness for arrogance, your silence for indifference. Let them. A dull world will always attack precision. Do not dim your light to make others comfortable. As Machiavelli wrote, "The lion and the fox must coexist within the same soul. Be kind, but see everything. Be compassionate, but never blind." If you truly apply these disciplines for 30 days, you will feel it. Your thoughts will slow down. Your perception will accelerate. You will stop reacting and start responding. You will feel your awareness separating from chaos, like a blade sliding from its sheath. That's the awakening Machiavelli meant. Not becoming cruel, but becoming clear. Now, write this in the comments as a personal declaration. I choose to live with precision. This phrase is your seal, your initiation into the practice of lucid thinking. Because the moment you choose precision, confusion begins to die. Soon, you'll notice that others can no longer manipulate you, that you see through patterns instantly, and that silence no longer feels empty. It feels powerful. That is the beginning of inner freedom. And from here, we enter the final stage, the closing revelation that will bind everything together, where philosophy meets awakening, There is a moment in every journey of awakening where the mind crosses an invisible threshold. You stop chasing more, and you start seeing clearly. You realize that what you were seeking was never intelligence. It was liberation. A dull mind is a prisoner of thought. A sharp mind is its master. When Machiavelli spoke of power, this is what he meant. Not dominance over others, but dominion over your own perception. To be free inside your mind, that is the highest empire. Everything else is decoration. Most people will never taste this freedom. They are too afraid of silence. They fear thinking deeply because deep thought forces them to confront their lies. They fear solitude because solitude reveals their emptiness. So they drown their minds in noise, activity, distraction, anything to avoid clarity. But you are not like them. If you've listened until this point, it means a part of you has already begun to awaken. The part that is tired of confusion, tired of emotional chaos, tired of seeing the same cycles repeat without end. That fatigue is sacred. It is the exhaustion of the false self, begging you to evolve. To sharpen your mind 200%, you don't need to add more thoughts. You need to remove the unnecessary ones. The false beliefs, the automatic reactions, the obsessive fears. Imagine your mind as a crystal covered in dust. Each discipline you've learned is a way of wiping away a layer. Detachment removes fear. Observation removes ignorance. Silence removes noise. Awareness removes illusion. What remains, when all the dust is gone, is pure perception. A mind that reflects reality as it is, not as it wishes to be. This is why Machiavelli remains misunderstood. Weak minds think his teachings are manipulative, but in truth, they are mirrors. He never created evil. He revealed it. He showed that clarity itself is power, because it exposes how others operate. Once you understand how human psychology functions, you stop taking it personally. You stop being hurt by betrayal because you see its cause. You stop being angry at manipulation because you recognize its pattern. The sharp mind doesn't eliminate darkness. It understands it, and understanding dissolves fear. You must now see yourself as both student and strategist. The world around you is not chaos. It's information. Every interaction, every emotion, every setback is data. Watch it, study it, learn from it. Machiavelli's greatest secret was that he learned more from failure than from victory. When his political career collapsed, when he was exiled, humiliated, forgotten, that's when he wrote The Prince. The world thought it destroyed him. In truth, it purified him. He turned pain into perception. That's what the sharp mind does. It converts suffering into structure. And that is your task now. Don't waste your suffering. Don't curse your loneliness. Use it. Let every scar become an opening for understanding. Because pain is not the enemy of wisdom. It is its forge. Every moment of heartbreak, rejection, and defeat was sharpening you. Even when you didn't see it. You thought life was punishing you. It was preparing you. Every misunderstanding was training your mind to see beyond emotion. Every silence was strengthening your ability to endure isolation. Every betrayal was teaching you how to read intentions. Nothing was wasted. Every cut made you sharper. But here lies the paradox. The sharper your mind becomes, the gentler your heart must remain. Intelligence without compassion becomes cruelty. Clarity without love becomes emptiness. Machiavelli's wisdom was meant to serve strength, not to destroy softness. So don't use your insight to dominate. Use it to elevate. To build, not to break. The most powerful minds in history, from Lao Tzu to Marcus Aurelius to Machiavelli, all understood that the end of thought is harmony. Once you see everything clearly, you stop fighting the world. You start dancing with it. Now, reflect for a moment. How much of your life has been controlled by reaction? How many decisions came from fear, not wisdom? How many opportunities did you miss because your mind was fogged by emotion? That fog is what you came here to dissolve. And as you listen to these words, the fog begins to clear. Because awareness, once awakened, cannot return to sleep. You are no longer thinking like the masses. You are seeing through the simulation. The world is not what it seems. It's what you perceive, and perception, refined, becomes power. Understand this. A sharp mind doesn't mean a restless mind. In fact, the sharpest mind is the calmest. Its stillness cuts through everything. It doesn't need to prove, to argue, or to rush. It simply knows. You can feel when someone like that enters a room. Their silence commands more attention than a crowd's noise. That's where you're heading. Every discipline you've learned here, observation, detachment, silence, inversion, they all lead to that state of tranquil precision where your thoughts obey you and your emotions follow reason. Machiavelli's final truth is one most people never understand. Clarity is the most dangerous form of rebellion, because once you see clearly, no one can manipulate you again. Governments, media, corporations, even loved ones. They lose their power once you see their motives. Clarity breaks control. That's why true thinkers have always been feared. That's why they silenced Socrates, exiled Machiavelli, burned Giordano Bruno, and mocked Nietzsche. The world does not reward clarity. It punishes it. But the awakened mind doesn't seek reward. It seeks reality. And reality is not cruel. It's clean. When you see it, everything aligns. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? You stop chasing pleasure and start pursuing peace. You stop trying to change others and start mastering yourself. The moment you do that, your life changes without effort. Because the external world always bends to the internal state. The sharper your mind, the calmer your life. So now, I'll ask you one final question. Not to answer me, but to answer yourself. Are you ready to live without illusions? Because once you begin, there is no going back. You will see manipulation where others see love. You will see weakness where others see kindness. You will see truth where others see comfort. It will isolate you at first, but eventually it will empower you beyond imagination. Say this to yourself. I choose clarity over comfort. I choose awareness over ignorance. I choose power over illusion. This is not arrogance. It's a vow. Because the world does not need more intelligent people. It needs more clear people. The sharp mind is not the one that wins every argument. It's the one that understands every argument and still chooses silence. So remember, when you feel lost, return to observation. When you feel emotional, return to breathing. When you feel confused, return to stillness. Because the mind, once purified, always knows what to do. And when you walk back into the noise of the world, the chaos, the emotions, the endless opinions, carry this silence within you. Let others speak, rage, and react. You will see patterns forming behind their words. You will see meaning behind their madness. And you will smile, not with superiority, but with understanding. That smile is the mark of a sharp mind. The calm confidence of one who finally sees you have crossed the threshold Machiavelli spoke of, not toward cruelty, but toward consciousness. And from this day forward, every thought you have will either dull you or refine you. Choose refinement. Choose awareness. Choose mastery. Because the world belongs not to those who shout the loudest, but to those who see the clearest. Now, if you feel this truth stirring in you, if you're ready to train your mind daily, write in the comments, I choose clarity. Let that phrase echo in your mind like a vow, because from this moment, Your life is no longer ruled by confusion. It is ruled by consciousness. And that, my friend, is what Machiavelli truly meant by power. Stay sharp, stay silent, and remember, the mind is your weapon. Polish it until it reflects the truth.